Hey guys, Thomas Joseph here. Now, I know this is a kitchen conundrum that you've had. When sauteing mushrooms, are you left with this soggy, insipid, really watery and flavorless mushrooms? Well, today I'm gonna share with you some tips and tricks in making the best sauteed mushrooms that are gonna be packed with flavor. Before we actually start the process and I start sharing some tricks with you, I want to go through some different types of mushrooms. Maybe you've seen these in your supermarket. The most common mushroom that probably everybody's used before, and that is a white button mushroom. When you buy these at the supermarket, you want to make sure that you find button mushrooms that are very white and vibrant, that aren't brown, and that are not blemished or damaged at all, like this one here. Great mushroom. Now, a cousin to this mushroom is the Cremini, and these Cremini mushrooms are becoming very popular in the supermarket these days. Sometimes they're marketed as baby bellas, and there's a very good reason why they're called baby bellas, because they're actually just a little baby version of the portobello mushroom, which is this guy here. And I love portobello mushrooms. They're really great for grilling. You can substitute them for a burger and they're fantastic. They have a lot of really great flavor to them as well. Another favorite mushroom of mine are these guys here. These are shiitake mushrooms. Shiitake mushrooms are starting to be more and more popular. They're popping up in a lot of recipes and in restaurants. And the one thing you need to know about shiitake mushrooms, you cannot eat the stem of the shiitake mushroom. So you have to make sure that you trim this away. And you can do that just by twisting it off. Now, the stem of the shiitake mushroom is way too fibrous to be consumed. So you can either toss it in the garbage or you can save it for later if you're making a delicious vegetable stock. These will add a really great amount of flavor. So this guy I have here, this is a chanterelle mushroom, and chanterelles are quite expensive. They're available not necessarily year-round. Their harvest depends on the rainfall. You want to make sure that you clean chanterelles and also morels, which are spring mushrooms here. You want to make sure that you clean them really well because they grow in sandy, gritty soil. And oftentimes it's locked up within the mushroom, so you want to make sure that you clean them really well before you use them in cooking. Now, some other mushrooms that I have here, these are golden oyster mushrooms. They kind of grow similar to how oysters grow in the ocean in giant clusters. A close cousin to the oyster mushroom are these mushrooms here. These are called maitake mushrooms or hen of the woods mushrooms. These are actually really fantastic if you throw them on the grill, or you can roast them in a very high heat oven, and the edges get a little crisp and the stalk gets nice and tender. These are beach mushrooms here. These are black trumpet mushrooms. I have bluefoot mushrooms here, which are a fun, colorful mushroom. And these guys here, these are king oyster mushrooms. These are really great if you roast them, if you cut them in half and sear them in a pan and then finish them in the oven. They're really delicious. So I'm just gonna take a mix of cremini and button mushrooms today, but this process really is the same for all of these different types of mushrooms. Now you wanna make sure before you use your mushrooms that you clean them well. And we did a video, guys, on cleaning mushrooms, so check that one out. I'm going to cut these into quarters. I'm not going to slice them up, but whatever your recipe specifies, that's how you should do it. If they're sliced, if they're quartered, if they're halved, whatever it is. Now, I have a pan over here heating over high heat. You never really want to saute mushrooms on a low heat. Even a medium heat is kind of risky because a lower temperature is going to encourage the mushrooms to steam. So mushrooms are made up of about 80 to 90% water, depending on the type of mushroom it is. So there's a ton of water locked in these little guys here, and you need to get it out, and you need to get it out quick. And then, since we're cooking these mushrooms on high heat, I'm going to use oil instead of butter to saute them. Again, if you were using butter, guys, here, what would happen is the butter would burn before the mushrooms would have a chance to cook. So the oil should be dancing in the pan. It should be very, very hot. It should glisten and shine, and that way you'll know it's super hot. Now, the second rule in cooking mushrooms to get a nice brown color to them is to not overcrowd the pan. So you might not have this size pan at home. That's fine. What you need to do is you need to cook your mushrooms in batches. And I'm actually gonna leave these behind because I don't wanna fill up the pan too much. Now, the other thing you need to know is to avoid the instinct. Your instinct probably would be to immediately start stirring these. You don't want to do that. You want to let them sear almost. So I'm not going to touch them. I'm going to let them cook for a few minutes until they get nice and golden on one side. Then I'm going to start to move them around the pan. Now, if you did start stirring them, what it's going to do is just encourage more and more moisture to leach out of the mushrooms, and that's going to make this whole mixture steam. The other thing that I'm not doing right now is seasoning with salt. Salt, what it does is it pulls moisture out of things, whether it's a vegetable, a meat, or whatever, and we don't want to encourage that right now. We don't want it to draw out the moisture. Again, it goes back to that whole steaming thing, you guys. Once these are nice and brown, that's when we can give them a generous sprinkling of salt. So these are gonna cook for about 2 minutes. All right, so it's been about 2 minutes. I'm gonna give these mushrooms a little bit of a check. Let's see, we'll rotate one of them around. You can see that they're developing a nice golden brown color, and now we can give them a little bit of a stir so that they brown on the other side. So give this guy a bit of a stir, and this is gonna take about another like 2 to 3 minutes, you guys, on high heat. And you can see that there's no water pooling in the bottom of this pan. It's all instantaneously evaporating. And this is going to give us wonderfully brown mushrooms that are not going to be insipid and that are going to be really flavorful. So it's been about another 3 minutes. The mushrooms, you can see a lot of the water has left the mushrooms. They've really condensed in size. So now give them a little bit of a seasoning with some salt, salting at the end, you guys. This encourages the moisture not to pull out in the beginning. And I'm going to add a little bit of butter here now just for some richness. At the very end, now a little bit of vinegar here would be great as well. A little bit of sherry vinegar or even some lemon would really be helpful to cut through the richness of the mushrooms. Give this a stir, and just for a little bit of freshness, some chives and some flat leaf parsley will really kind of brighten up the flavor of the mushrooms. And there you go, guys. You have really wonderful, flavorful brown mushrooms. This is perfect if you wanted to serve this alongside some chicken cutlets. This would be fantastic. Now remember the steps. When you are sauteing your mushrooms, you want to make sure that they're super dry before they go into the pan. You want to make sure that the pan is screeching hot, so the highest possible setting as well. You don't want to overcrowd the pan, so don't put too many mushrooms in. Try to use the biggest pan you have so that there's more surface area, and salt at the end. Now, if you guys have any kitchen conundrums that you need us to solve, write in the comment section below. And as always, guys, enjoy, right?